Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today, we're going to be going over the upcoming live updates to DBD because Behavior rolled out their plan changes, things they're going to be working on for the next half year, next about 6 months of changes, at least things that they are planning to look at and things that they're planning to change. They are putting up here they put it out in a Twitch stream, and now it is up on their Twitter. So we're going to be going through those. This has been a very, very controversial thing that a lot of people are panicking about. A lot of things that people have been asking me about in my Twitch streams is, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about them wanting to change this? So I'm just going to put it here in its own dedicated space. I know I'm a little bit late to the party compared to other content creators, and to be honest with you, I don't know why. I just kind of was like, yeah, when people are complaining about something weird. Oh, well, I guess I should probably look at that, huh? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so quality of life changes that are coming January through March. Field of view slider. So it's been requested for a very, very long time in Dead by Daylight that there be some sort of accessibility option in the accessibility menu to adjust your field of view slider instead of having to run Shadowborn, which is the only way to do it now. Well, not technically. There's monitor and abuse and stuff like that, but like, yeah, essentially they're trying to not relegate the field of view thing to perks, because why should I have to take up a perk slot, especially since a lot of the time field of view sliders are used to kind of curb like motion sickness and stuff like that. I'm somebody who needs Shadowborn when I play nurse specifically, or else I get motion sick very, very, very quickly and very, very easy. So having that as an option and not just like a locked in perk slot is going to be a good thing. There's not really a lot to complain about there. There's not really any negative to that. But the thing that a lot of people are worried about, a lot of people are scared about, are the solution for 3 gens. Because I've been seeing takes on this on both sides, and they're both very like aggressively biased. Who would have thunk that side v side politics in DBD we get aggressively biased? Essentially, survivors are, pretty much jumping for joy. Very, very happy, very, very excited, because, well, a lot of the time you'll have situations on the map, any map, for the most part, most maps of the game, where you're spawning and there'll just be like 3 or 4 gens, just like cram-packed right next to each other. And despite the fact that you haven't done anything wrong, if a killer realizes that there's a 3 or a 4 gen set up on a map and they have a lot of slowdown, they can essentially just defend one tiny side of the map and not win for free. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but win with relative ease and not directly a fault of the survivor team at all. So that's always been a frustrating aspect of DBD's design, is that especially with old Skull Merchant and old Knight, where with the Overbrine Eruption meta, where they could really take advantage of this. So that going away would be fundamentally a good thing. However, I have seen killer mains on the other side of things talk about how a lot of the times 3 gens are created. It's not necessarily that, these 3 gens are just like smack dab next to each other, killer defense the whole match. In a lot of scenarios, the survivors are just kind of like slamming out the gens so quickly that they're not paying attention to their gen spread, which is a skill that you should have and should be learning as survivor. So they'll do all the gens so quickly they're not paying attention to where they're doing them, and then they end up 3-genning themselves. And that aspect of the game will theoretically also go away if they have a solution for 3 gens. And a lot of killers are up in arms about this because, well, they should be punished for making a poor play. And like I think the big thing is this is kind of up in the air right now. You don't know how they're going to adjust it. Yeah, it's up in the air, so you don't know really how they're going to adjust it. I think the game is healthier without it, honestly, because like most of the time when survivors are like 3-genning themselves into like do a corner or something like that, usually it's not a full 4-man. Usually it's like, a random that does the wrong gen and locks them into that. So it's kind of like part of that like solo queue bad experience that, okay, well, we had a good gen spread, but like these 2 foreheads didn't know that, so they 3-genned us, and now we have to suffer even though we didn't do anything wrong. So I think in general, like, I think it's still healthier for the game if you use that other argument, but it just depends how they go about it. All right, in terms of killer updates, first up we have the Onryo, and this is something that if you've watched a couple of my other React videos, you know how I feel about this. I feel like Sadako, ever since she got her update, has become a very, very boring flowchart killer. on both sides of the game. I don't enjoy playing her. I never play her anymore. Even when I go off as Xenomorph and start doing like random rotations of just like the whole killer roster like I used to. I used to play Sadako fairly frequently. Don't anymore. I think she has very, very like, I don't know how else to put it. She just has very flowcharty gameplay. Like whether you're playing against her as Survivor or playing as her as Killer, almost every match of Sadako plays out the same because they took that condemned part of her base kit that used to be a playstyle and just kind of like shoved it into her base kit. So now it's a part of every single game. So largely almost every Sadako game plays out mostly the same with a little bit of tiny variation here and there. And I just feel like, I don't know. It's like, for example, you know, getting into Hillbilly here. Sometimes you get curve billies, sometimes you get M1 billies, sometimes you get drift billies, sometimes you get stealth billies. Like, you don't get Billy very often, period, anymore. Let's be real about that. But I just wanted to say, you know, use an example is like, sometimes you get comp billies with like low pro and BAM and stuff like that. But my point being that every match of Billy is not the same because, well, he's got a lot of add-on variation. There's a lot of stuff you can do with his base kit. It's just like, there's just a lot. There's a lot of different ways you can play Billy. So not every Billy game you get is going to play out the same way. Whereas Sadako, almost every match of an Onryo match plays about the same. So that would be my thing that I would want to see update about her, is make her gameplay a little bit more dynamic and not just the same thing over and over. With the Hillbilly, since we got into that very, very briefly, Hillbilly has been in kind of like a rocky spot for a long time. He got a big nerf a few years ago, and he's kind of never really recovered from it, which is why you don't see him much anymore, because despite being the highest skill cap character in the game, you're only like a low B tier at best, firing on all cylinders. So like the amount of effort to learn and consistently play well on the character versus reward versus the results, it's not there. And so it's just kind of like you see less and more in the more maps that they release. The collision's bad, which affects him very, very poorly. It's just the maps aren't good for him that they continually release as well. So you're just not seeing a whole lot of Hillbillies. There's some add-ons that I would like to see. As somebody who used to main Hillbilly, there's some add-ons I'd like to see changed, made partially based kit, probably like engraving, stuff like that. The overheat system needs to go or just be massively reworked to do something else because you never needed it in the first place. So that's the kind of stuff I would like to see, but we'll see what they do. Hopefully, a lot of people are like, are they gonna nerf Billy again? I don't think they're gonna nerf Billy again. Like literally, there's no way that enough people are playing Billy that they even care or notice. Like literally, there's no way. No way. So I don't think they're gonna nerf him. Now the Blight add-ons is something that, you know, has been a long time coming. Blight as a base kit, very, very well designed killer. Very, very well designed killer. Very, very strong, but you know, for the most part, fair. It's just the add-ons that have always been a problem. There's so many, like you can't even point to like one. You got like Compound 33, you got Alchering, like there's a lot of add-ons for Blight that are just way too much. And it's funny because Blight is already the second best character in the game, and he has some of the best add-ons in the game. Why does he get to have both? Some characters are good but have bad add-ons. Some characters have good add-ons but they're bad. Like Blight just gets the best of both worlds, and it just doesn't make sense why he gets to have all of that while other characters struggle. So once that gets adjusted, I mean, it's going to be hard to. People will still gripe about Blight. So people still complain about Blight because people complain about everything. But it's going to be hard from an objective standpoint to complain about Blight because the add-ons really are kind of the problem. Perk updates. This is the one I see a lot of people complaining about. I kind of want to get to like the positive ones first, and then the big one, which we'll talk about. So Modern Beast and Shadowborn are obviously going to be adjusted because like I was explaining earlier, the field of view stuff is going to a accessibility slide. So, yeah, obviously you're gonna have to switch up some of their abilities to do something else. Quick Gambit makes sense because Quick Gambit is that's the Vittorio perk where you run towards people working on gens and they get progress, which is literally sandbag the perk. So that inherently, you know, encourages unhealthy gameplay. So might as well give that a more healthy effect than like intentionally hurting your team. Embrace is a very, very well-designed perk, but there's not enough bang for the buck. So, like, I think a perfect example of perfect counterpart to Embrace is No Way Out, Trickster Teachable, where if you 4-hook the whole team, you get the exit gates blocked for an extremely long period of time, which is really, really good and really, really helpful. It's like the second best non-slowdown perk in the game. We'll talk about the first one here in a second. But the effect of wrapping the gens doesn't really last that long. You'd be better off using like Deadman's or Deadlock. So like the bang for your buck has to be worth it. Like, the perk is designed perfectly. It's just like the payoff is not. The payoff needs to be better. So that's probably what they need to look at. Okay, let's talk about save the best for last, because this is the big thing where like survivor mains are sick of it and killer mains are like, I don't know why they would ever touch that. It's a perfectly fair and fine perk. So if you didn't know, in the 6.10 update, the big, huge meta shift update that happened a while back, you actually got 2 stacks of save the best for last base kit on all characters. Very cool. It's one of those quality life updates that they did. However, save their best for last did not get adjusted in any way post this change, which I found kind of strange. Save probably should have had its stacks capped. Probably should have taken 2 off the top there. That probably would have made the most sense. I don't know why they didn't do that. Because like because essentially now, compared to the old days, you essentially now can get quote unquote 10, air quotes 10 stacks of save the best for last, which is a lot. That especially with rapid brutality that you can now pair with is like, this can get pretty obnoxious. Very, very obnoxious. Also, I think in general, just from like a health perspective of the game, essentially one player just doesn't get to play the game to a certain extent, right? Because a lot of people, and rightfully so, because the efficient thing when you're playing with save the best for last, will just ignore the obsession. So a lot of the time the obsession will not get to really play too much because they're just kind of getting ignored by the killer. Even if they like start throwing themselves at the killer will often ignore them just to keep their stacks. So it's one of those things where like it can probably be messed with in a way that would probably make it healthier for the game. I think in general, I think it's just like, I don't know why they didn't just cap stacks when they first did the base kit update, but I don't know. They're adjusting it now, so whatever. I think it's not that big of a deal. I think I mentioned this to someone on stream. Somebody was like, I win most of my games because of save the best for last, so I hate this. And it was like, homie, if you're only winning most of your games because you're only using save, like save is winning you all your games, like it's like if any of these things that are on this list, like save the best for last, I protect my 3-gen, these are the main ways you're winning your matches, and like you're crutching on them, like that's not good. You need to like you need to have a full repertoire. You need to have a full kit here when it comes to your killer skill. You can't just like rely on a perk or a certain strategy to win all your games. Okay, so this is the March and April section. They're looking at an update to the Mangled status effect, which I'm going to talk about these in tandem because they're also talking about the perk update to Sloppy Butcher here at the bottom. I think that Mangled is so easily applied nowadays, especially since, you know, Sloppy is like one of the most popular perks in the game, that, yeah, I feel like Mangled probably needs to be looked at. I don't think it's generally problematic. Like, if you told me, like, hey, do you think Mangled is a problematic perk of, or like status effect in Dead by Daylight? I'd probably tell you no. I'd probably be like, eh, no, not really. This is whatever. You know, I kind of, like, it helps. I don't really use a lot of Mangled add-ons. Or like Mangled perks. I use Gift of Pain sometimes, but in general, I feel like if behavior has shown that like their thing is like they don't want anything to be too prevalently meta for like too long of a time, and definitely like almost every killer having a Mangled add-on, Sloppy Butcher being one of the most common like slowdown perks that killers run, like it's definitely the meta to apply in Mangled. So they're gonna try to adjust that. So like it's not something that I particularly have been like, that's a problem, and behavior needs to fix this so DBD can be healthier right away. Not what it wouldn't have come to my mind, but like I do see how it's just like extremely prevalent in the meta. So if you're wanting people to run different stuff, that's probably the thing you would look at. In terms of the killer tweaks, I don't know why we're going back to Hag again. I think Hag is in a relatively like fine spot. I don't know what they would tweak about her necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. I forget the hacks in the game a lot of the time, to be honest with you. But like, she's just, I guess they could adjust her, try to find a way to make her more fun, because she's just kind of just like, she was like Skull Merchant before Skull Merchant was a thing. She just like camps areas from super far away, and always has, you know, info on where you're at. And at least now you can like crouch around and like wipe off the traps, but that's not always like advantageous, especially if she's around. Not always possible, I should say. Not always possible, especially if she's like hanging around. So I don't know. I think she like, and it's fine because like it's every game, card game, fighting game, there's always like an anti-meta character, right? Like all the characters do this, but this character does the opposite. And that's kind of like Hag and Dead by Daylight. Everybody's all about like, I have some sort of anti-chase ability. Hag is like, I chase one person down them and then I just camp. Yeah, I can be camping from across map, but I can't. I camp. So it's the anti-meta. But I do wish she was more fun to play as and against. Hey, we're looking at again. We recently had a react where we thought about some ideas on how to help pick out. I think her hats are in a perfect spot. I think her hats are perfectly balanced. The only thing I would change would be like the scream interrupt thing. But the other half of her kit, which is being her dash and her stealth, could be buffed a fair bit and actually make her a pretty solid character. She's almost there. I really do think Pig's almost there. Pig could be a very, very solid C tier if they got those adjustments. So I hope that's the way they go with that. Huntress? Why is Huntress here? This I don't understand. I think Huntress is in a perfect spot. Why? What does Huntress need changing for? Yeah, I don't know why Huntress is on here. So, matter of fact, I'm going to do the same thing with Demogorgon. I feel like Demogorgon, besides like maybe taking another look at their add-ons to give them more add-on options, but why are they being adjusted? Why? I don't. These two are confusing to me because I feel like the Huntress and Demogorgon, from like a balance perspective, you know, minus giving Demo more add-on choice, is like, they're in pretty good spots, so I don't know why they're being looked at. I couldn't quite tell you, but okay. Clown, I hope the clown change is trying to help with the nausea thing, with the clown gas. I always say when I'm facing clown, when I'm facing dredge, it's always okay. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where like, it's okay to like simulate that stuff, like simulate that distortion, that kind of like, losing grip of reality for one reason or another, like, oh, it's hazy and I can't see, or it's dark and I need to squint. But like, I shouldn't be doing these things in real life, right? Like, it's okay to simulate that effect for the character, the survivor in Dead by Daylight. I, as the person in real life, should not be feeling these things. And I think that's the problem with Clown, is that like, the haziness and the motion sickness starts making you motion sick in real life and not just the character, which is not good. Not good at all. So I hope that's the thing they change. And honestly, once again, it's one of those things where I'm like, I think Clown's okay, right? Like, I feel like if you make Clown any stronger, he becomes super obnoxious, but you make him any weaker, he's going to be like useless or near useless like he used to be. I feel like he's in a fine spot. Doctor, I'm like, once again, I hope the Doctor stuff, once again, is just kind of more on the Clown side, where they're just kind of looking at accessibility issues when it comes to like his effects being a little too much. And they used to be worse, so you can look that up sometime. It used to be way worse. But once again, Doctor is kind of like one of those characters, once again, like, if you make him any stronger, he actually starts becoming tremendously obnoxious, but if you make him any weaker, he starts becoming useless. So I think he's in a fairly good spot. So like, besides the pig, I don't know why any of these killers are being changed and what they could possibly be doing to them. So this little area makes me a little nervous. So hopefully nothing too drastic happens here. And now for our final page, which is April through June. Quality of life and gameplay, Bloodweb improvements. I mean, it's always nice to continue to look at the Bloodweb and try to make it more sustainable and that sort of thing, and make it more nice to use. I don't know. It's a primary function of the game, so anyway you can make that feel better is good. Perk updates, Ultimate Weapon, and DS. So Ultimate Weapon, I think, is not as strong or OP of a perk as people make it out to be. I do think that the blindness is just like completely unnecessary for how good the effect is, and maybe make the timer a little bit longer, because like I feel like this should be Ultimate Weapon. I feel like in a good healthy spot would be you use this when you can't find people. Right now, it's just kind of like I use this to find people, and it's the primary way that I find people, and it like it kind of almost becomes a crutch at a certain point. Like, I guess that's good in the sense of like you're new to the game. It's going to help you like kind of get a good idea of in a macro sense of like where people are and why at certain points of the match. But like I see people crutch this perk way deep past the point of when it would be like necessary. And I don't know, maybe that's just the match reviewer in me talking, but like I feel like people use this perk to supplant their ability to learn the macro game of Dead by Daylight. So it kind of irritates me a little. I'm like, you can just get good at your macro game. You don't need to check the locker 30 times. Yeah, maybe make the timer a little bit longer. That way you're not just using it to find people every single time. and kind of use it more as like a rat finder when people are playing immersive. DS has been, I don't know if it's DS that even needs to change. It's just kind of like DS just got completely busted. Completely busted. It used to be one of the strongest perks in the game, just outright OP, and now it's basically useless. It doesn't do too much at all. You don't really see it much outside of like competitive play sometimes. Obviously you've probably seen the Deli DS combo and that sort of thing if you've ever watched a scrim or a tournament. But otherwise this perk doesn't really have much use, and I kind of feel nervous about relegating something as important as like anti-tunnel to a perk again. I mean, we'll take those. We'll take it back. My idea for DS is that we leave the timer at 3 seconds for the stun, but you fall off the shoulder of the killer immediately, so you immediately gain control of your character. You can start moving earlier. I think that would be the way I would go about it. But yeah, I'm kind of nervous. Hopefully the DS is just like we work this into something else, and then like there's something like the anti-camp potentially that's coming for tunneling. But I mean, I'll take DS being fixed over anything, or not fixed, but you know, readjusted. And then finally, in June, we're getting the Twins update that has just been long awaited. You would catch me forgetting about this, forgetting that this was actually coming for an incredibly long time. I feel like behavior Twins is definitely the forgotten child, the killer they released and they just kind of like forget existed a lot. Hopefully this will bring them back into, not back into, like if they ever were, bring them into some sort of relevance, make them a moderately played character. It's probably going to be pretty extensive since it's been in the pipeline for a long time. So hopefully they're fun to play as, hopefully they're fun to play against. Hopefully we get at least one of those. And we actually see more of this character instead of just kind of being like essentially almost a forgotten chapter. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on the things that they are adjusting, how I would want to adjust them. Hopefully they adjust them in a way that's healthy for the game. What do you guys think of the things that are coming? I know this has been a very controversial thing for a lot of people. A lot of YouTubers have been panicking. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Other than that, we'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily. But if I do not, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.